Hey guys, it's Casey and welcome back to my channel and Happy New Year. Well, actually not so happy for me because we're not even a full day into the new year yet and it's already going poorly as far as I'm concerned, which probably doesn't bode well for 2026, a bad omen if you would. I woke up this morning the same way that I would wake up any other morning because this morning is nothing special other than the fact that it's the first day of the year. It's January 1st. But that means absolutely nothing to me. It's nothing special. I get up the same way that I do every other morning because Nate's at work today, Michelle's at work, Ash has gone to Thailand with his boyfriend David, and so what am I going to do? I'm going to sit at home and chillax like I do any other day off that I don't have my friends around. So it's a complete and total nothing burger to me, the fact that it's the first day of the year. So I wake up, I feel a little bit tired. Not that unusual, whatever. I get out of my bed, I go and I brush my teeth. Like I said, completely and total usual morning. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing unusual. Except for when I get to the bathroom, I look in the mirror because of course I do, I'm a human being. I've got to see my beautiful face in the morning. And when I look in the mirror, I am met with... I'm just covered head to toe in blood. There's no other way to describe it. I look like I have fallen into a cesspit. I look like that girl at the end of Ready or Not. That is how bad it looked. It was just blood everywhere, blood. Every single pore on my body covered in blood. And I'm like, oh my God, what happened last night? Because as far as I'm aware, I went to bed at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I stayed up. What was I watching? I was watching The Flood, which is the worst movie on Netflix I've ever seen. Don't watch it. But I was watching The Flood, and then I went to bed with all my blood in my body and completely and totally normal. Then I seemingly woke up this morning with all of my blood outside of my body. Like, what massacre occurred in my bedroom while I was sleeping last night? Because honestly, if as a doctor, and I am a doctor, had I seen that crime scene and it had not been from me, I would have thought that someone had died in there. That's how much blood there was. There was blood matting my hair. It was clumping my eyelashes together like bad mascara. It was under my fingernails. It was everywhere. I go back into my bedroom because I'm trying to figure out what has happened in there. And my bedroom looks like a massacre scene. It looks like somebody has been murdered in my bed and violently murdered at that. It looks like Johnny Depp's death scene in the bed in Nightmare on Elm Street. That's what it looks like. I would put pictures up here, but YouTube generally frowns upon that sort of gore, so use your imagination. And of course, I am completely and totally confused at this point because I've done my due diligence by this point in time and I've taken off all my clothes and I've inspected my body. And as far as I can tell, I do not have so much as a paper cut. So where is all this blood coming from? I have no idea what has caused this hemorrhage, this extreme hemorrhage, by the way. Like I said, this life-threatening, should have been life-threatening hemorrhage that is sprayed all across my bedroom. It's going to take forever to clean up. And so I'm like, okay, I've examined my body. I can't see anything wrong. I've got a slight headache, but other than that and the mess, like everything's normal. That's all there is. A slight headache and a huge mess for me to clean up. And so by this point, I put 2 and 2 together. I'm like, okay, something's telling me that this is not a naturally occurring experience, which usually wouldn't be a huge problem because that's part of the reason that Dress Levesque is here. Not the main reason. The main reason that he's here is because Clement is here. But all the same, he is my evil Dumbledore. Well, not really so much Dumbledore, more like Gandalf the Grey, but the other grey-white guy, I don't remember his name. The one who like betrays Gandalf the Grey and makes him Gandalf the White. That guy? Is he played by Christopher Lee? I feel like he's played by Christopher Lee. The Christopher Lee villain guy. Except for he's not like him at all either because he's the one time that I need to speak to Dress Levesque, he is nowhere to be found because he does not like sunlight in his eyes, and so at the start of every single year for like several weeks he disappears off the face of the planet and I don't know where he goes. And so because Dress Levesque is missing in action, I am now forced to ask my least favorite person on the face of this planet and the next. So I had to ring Ronald up, bring, hello on the telephone. And so there are 2 things that you need to understand when it comes to interacting with Ronald. 1, you never want to physically touch him under any circumstances. And 2, you never want to put yourself in a position where you owe him a favor, where you are indebted to him in any way, right? Luckily for me, and now for you, anyone watching this video, I know how to loophole that last bit because I know that a lot of people don't know because Ronald comes off a lot smoother than he is. I know that Ronald is an absolute loser of the, well, actually variety, like a Reddit mod variety loser. And so you can kind of manipulate and dry beg the information that you want out of him without promising him anything in return. If you just kind of string it on a little bit, because he can't help himself. And I tell him that I woke up with all the blood outside of my body, and it was important for me to die knowing that Ronald knew that I hated his guts. Which, by this point, I know that I'm not dying. I'm pretty certain that I'm not dying because it's been like 3 hours since I woke up. And like I said, all I have is a slight headache and a huge mess to clean up. I've had a shower. I've washed my hair. I've washed all the blood out of my hair. I've even called the hospital to ask if I can borrow the wet vac for a few hours. So I'm pretty confident at this point in time that I'm not about to drop dead. But Ronald doesn't know that I know this, and I want to know exactly why I'm bleeding out of every pore in the middle of the night. So I need him to chuck me a few crumbs of knowledge. Like I said, he cannot help himself. He thinks that I think that I'm dying. So he has to, be the big man around town and come save me with his world of knowledge that no one else in the entire world has, which actually, it's a pretty fair point in this circumstance, to be honest. But yeah, so I gotta be really careful here because in my head, Ronald always sounds like Steve Urkel. He doesn't. Like in real life, he doesn't sound like Steve Urkel at all. His voice is actually very velvety and smooth, like a white Morgan Freeman, even though I don't think Ronald is technically like white. I actually don't know. I don't think it's as clear cut as that. But yeah, in my head, he just sounds like a nasally dweeb. So Ronald tells me that I'm not dying. At this point, I'm like, yeah, no shit. Like, duh, I know that I'm not dying. But again, I don't tell him this because I need him to, keep feeding me the beads of information. So he asked me how I've been feeling lately. And I'm like, well, I'm going to be honest. I haven't been feeling sick because I haven't been feeling sick, but I've been feeling really, really tired for the last week and a half. Like I come home from work at 6 p.m. and I go to sleep almost immediately and don't wake up into 8 a.m. the next morning. And then by lunchtime, I'm tired again and I've got 3 mouth ulcers in my mouth and I've got a patch of rotting skin on my face, which usually only happens when I've been exposed to radiation, and I haven't been exposed to any radiation, so I don't know what it is. So I just stuck a pimple patch on it and hoped for the best, which actually worked surprisingly well. It didn't clear it up fully, it's still there. I can still feel it and you can still kind of see it, but it took a lot of the ready scabbiness out of it, which I appreciated a lot. So that is a pro tip. Actually, don't take it as a pro tip if you're ever exposed to radiation. Go to the hospital. So Ronald proceeds to tell me that A's cortisol levels have been steadily rising for the month of December, and he's amazed that I did not know this already because it tastes incredible. What is wrong with me? Well, nothing's wrong with me. I'm sorry that I'm not a complete and total weirdo and I can't taste his hormones on the breeze. And anyway, what right does A have to be stressed? What could possibly be stressing him out for the entire month of December that, his cortisol levels are flying on the breeze? I don't know. Do you know what his life is like? I will tell you what his life is like. He lives in Cornwall, right? So he lives in Cornwall. He gets up every single morning and he walks down to the beach, which is not a far walk because his house is right on the beach because he lives the life that he wants to live and no one can prevent him from doing so. He goes to the beach, he reads his little book for a few hours, and then he comes home, where he then proceeds to sit in front of his television set, his stupid freaking television set, and watch the entirety of human history until he decides that he's done with that for the day, in which case he gets up and he walks back down to the beach and reads his book again. And then once he's finished there, he walks to the local pub where he plays cards or darts or participates in a trivia night or whatever the hell he feels like is going on there that night. That's his entire life. Rinse and repeat every single day, except for when he decides that he doesn't want to do that because he only ever does exactly what he wants to do when he wants to do it. What does he have to be stressed about? Oh my God, it's such a hard life being a functional god. But I don't tell Ronald any of this because A, he does not deserve that much free information that he can cherry pick and use as he wishes. And B, it's just frankly none of his business if A is stressed. Could I find out why A is stressed? Yes, and I think that he was aiming for me to do so. Maybe he was, dry begging me, as the kids like to say these days. He was dry begging me to do so. But I'm not going to, because I could not care less that A is stressed. I hope he's stressed. I hope he is stressed to hell and high water and back again. I hope he's down a shit creek without a freaking paddle, because he could not care less that I'm stressed. He has all the power in the world to change my circumstances, and he chooses every single day. I give him opportunity every single day to do so. And every single day he chooses not to. So I hope that he is stressed. I hope that he is losing his hair, to be honest. Anyway, Ronald said that the bleeding was was caused by what is called a boundary shear event from A's cortisol levels peaking and then rapidly declining back down to normal levels. Basically a short spike in space-time metric gradient around A that briefly yanked the tissue in slightly different directions on slightly different scales. And that instantaneous differential stress cracked fragile microvessels across the mucosa, which is skin, if you don't know what that is. But then very rapidly the spike collapsed and the pressure normalized and the crack self-healed, ending the bleeding, leaving only the mess in its wake. Now, if that means nothing to you, don't worry, because it actually means nothing to me either. I did not understand a word that he was saying. So he explained it with a metaphor of a stress ball, which is why I'm holding a stress ball in my hand. He said it's kind of like when you apply pressure to a stress ball and everything kind of goes out of place. But then if you just release it, everything pops back into place rapidly. And that's more or less the same ideal, according to Ronald. I don't know if that's true or not. But either way, I don't actually care why it happened. I'm just annoyed that it happened because this is a public holiday. And it's my day off. I'm supposed to be relaxing. I should, in theory, be celebrating, but I have no one to celebrate with because everyone's either working or in Thailand with David. I shouldn't say that. David's actually really, really nice. But I don't like to share my Ashton. He's mine. I don't want him to, move to the big town where David lives. I want him to stay here with me. But anyway, the point is I'm supposed to be, having a nice day. Instead, I had to get up covered in blood and then I had to go down to the hospital and grab the wet vac and have to explain to everyone why I need the wet vac on New Year's Eve because everyone thinks that I puked on my carpet, which I didn't. That sounds really defensive. No, I didn't. But I had to come home and I had to wet vac my mattress because it was covered in blood. And then I had to wet vac my carpet because that too was covered in blood. And I had to throw away 4 different books because they were covered in blood. And there was blood on the ceiling and there was blood on the wall behind my bed. And I had to scrub all that off. And I have to bring all my washing from my bedroom, all my sheets and all my doona covers and all my pajamas and everything that the blood touched. I have to bring it down to the hospital and put it into the washing machine there because I do all my washing at the hospital anyway. So that's nothing new. But it's just really annoying. Okay, it's really, really annoying. Because now I have to sleep on my couch for the next 3 days while I wait for everything in my room to dry. So luckily, William brought me that doona, that blanket, that quilt set for Christmas because I'm going to have to use it. I've been using it on my couch anyway. It's like a pillow, not as a quilt. It's really, really comfortable as a pillow. It's like a huge, giant, beautiful, soft body pillow, but I'm going to have to use it as a quilt. It's just really annoying, okay? It's really, really annoying. Happy New Year to me, I guess. Anyway, New Year's, what are we doing for the new year? I can tell you what we're not doing, and that is that we are not doing New Year's resolutions because I think that they are inherently stupid. Because if you were motivated to change in the first place, you wouldn't have to wait for the new year to do so. You'd be perfectly happy to make that change in a sustainable way on June 17th. So we are instead going to call them New Year's intentions. What are my New Year's intentions for 2026? Well, as I've said before, I've said a couple of times over the last couple of months, I want to start working on my grimoire a little bit more. However, every time I sit down and I think I'm going to do it, I somehow end up scrolling on WitchTok, which is the witch TikTok community, which is just the funnest roller coaster of wackiness in the entire world. It's one of my favorite online communities because they take everything so goddamn seriously, even though none of their practices are grounded in science or mathematics, which makes it complete and total BS, and yet they are 100% rational in their own minds and what they're saying. And I just love it. But I'm going to, try to be, maybe my New Year's resolution is that I'm going to try to be less judgmental of modern Western folks. I think that's going to be the main one. I think that's something I really, really need to work on in and of myself. But I want to start working on my grimoire a bit more. I know I've been saying that, but I really, really do. I want to be more intentional in my food intake, my exercise, and my reading. I want it to more closely resemble how it is at home instead of how I participate in it here in the modern West. Because here, you know, I eat what I eat and I move when I move and I read what I read just to pass the time and kind of disassociate from everything that's going on around me at the hospital. Because I primarily read at the hospital because I have this really weird thing that I really struggle to read at home because I don't want the time to pass to the point that I then have to go back to the hospital and it feels like an hour and a half and I haven't done anything in that time. So I want to make an effort to eat more home-based foods that I would cook if I was at home. I want to, you know, stretch more. I want to get back to my physical peak because I can barely reach my toes here. And I was once flexible enough to kiss my own ass in both directions. So I'm never going to get back to that physical peak, I don't think. And I don't really want to. Like, it's very injury prone to be that way. But I want to at least, you know, I would like to be able to do both side splits and middle split again. That might be my goal for the year, is to achieve that again. And reading, I just want to, you know, even just a chapter a night. Or 5 nights a week. I want to be doing that. So that's another one. And I think the last one is that I do want to start participating in more holiday events, which is something that I've never done in the modern West. I know that I tried to do Christmas this year and it was a complete and total disaster because I just wasn't ready for it. I don't feel like Christmas is the holiday to be diving off that certain diving board into the world of modern Western celebrations. It's just not. It's too big of a holiday. It's too expensive of an outlay and it goes on for too long. It was uncomfortable for me. It too closely resembled one of our own holidays, which again was Saturnalia. And I just was not ready for it. I want to be ready for it this year. And I feel like in order to be ready for it, I need to actively participate in modern Western holidays throughout the year. So that's something that I'm also going to aim to do so. Ones that are less consumerist based, maybe. So, you know, Easter, I might celebrate Easter. I might celebrate Australia Day this year, which is something else that I've never done. I might go to the beach because I haven't been to the beach in years. Well, I'm lying. I'm actually lying about that. I'm actively lying about that. It hasn't been years, but, you know, I grew up in a definitively tropical area. So I grew up very close to the beach and I don't live near a beach at the moment. So, you know, spending more time at the beach, getting the full Australian experience. We'll see. Anyway, that's all I got to say for today. So this is Casey signing off. As always, stay weird out there, stay safe, and let me know if there are any it's not even Christmas. Let me know if there are any New Year's movies that I'm supposed to be watching on New Year's, or any like New Year's celebrations that are widely accepted in the modern West that I haven't participated in. Like Home Alone on New Year's Eve. Is that a thing? Probably not. That sounds more like the Christmas movie. Anyway, Happy New Year, everybody.